Hello everybody, my name is Seth and I am beginning a Learning to Program series. This series is going to be fun for me. I really enjoy programming more than I should, and it kind of takes up all my hobbies, I realized the other day. I used to be in the academic tutoring department at my university, and I learned I really liked teaching there. However, I also learned that you can't make a living off being a tutor there. So I ended up getting an actual programming job. But I still want to teach, so this is my outlet for that. These videos, I'm planning to never monetize them because I feel this information should be free at every level. I really want to be able to make a difference for people who might not have the resources to afford university or to learn this sort of thing. And so that's what this is for. The programming language I've chosen is Rust for two reasons. The first reason is because I really like the language. And that's really the only reason I feel I need. But the second is because Rust, the way the programming language works, has so many good features. It almost forces you to program using good programming practices. So if you learn Rust and you really learn the concepts behind it, you will be more effective even in other programming languages that you learn. And that's the idea behind it. So this video will focus on the installation of Rust on your computer. Whether it's a Raspberry Pi or any of that, you should be able to run Rust on your computer. Also, I'd like to make mention that there are terms that I will use that I will use. I will put them in the description. When I was in academic tutoring, I found that the hardest part for new programmers was learning all the jargon involved in learning programming. So when they would go to class, they'd be like, I have no idea what this guy's saying. And it was because the teacher wouldn't define their terms clearly up front. And it's probably a fault in lots of classes. But the terms I would like to define for this episode, and I'll put them in the description, are... oh wait, what is this? This is the wrong script. Hold on. The first term is a programming language, which is... A programming language is a computer programming language. Of course, it's a computer programming language. It is a language meant for humans. Most people will say it's meant for computers, but really it's meant for computers. It's like a translation layer for the computer. The programming language is a way that you can express logic and instructions of what you want the computer to do to the computer without having to write the very minute details. This is not possible without a compiler, at least the higher level programming languages that we have. For a compiler, second term, is a program that has either already been written at a low enough level or it's been around long enough that the language is self-sustaining. The compiler will take your logic and code and it will rate it and translate it into a language that your computer will understand. The Rust programming language has these things. Let's dive into it. I'm going to the internet browser. Okay, this is the Rust-Lang website, and this is where you can go for all of your Rust needs. You can go install Rust, there's documentation, and everything. By the way, in the documentation, you can actually edit the code. Let me zoom in more. Here. Okay, you can actually edit this code in the browser and it'll run it for you. Run, and let me show you an edit, and that it will still run. Hi-oh, Lucky Bob. Waffles! Exclamation mark. And as you see, it changes. This is useful if you're going through the book on your own and, well, anywhere. So anyway, we go install Rust. This will give you instructions dependent on your platform, whether it's Microsoft Windows, Apple's Mac operating system, or, Linux. I'm on Linux, Ubuntu 17.04 edition with the Genome desktop environment. And that's why this command comes through this way. I believe it's actually the same command for Mac. For Windows, I believe it gives you an executable. Okay, and the next thing I'd like to show you is what editor I would like to, which editor you can use for Rust. Hold on, I'm going to retcon that. Back up. Rust as a programming language is made by the people at Mozilla, the people behind Firefox. It's even being used in Firefox. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon as a programming language. So if you have any worries about that, it's very well maintained. It has a very active community of people who contribute to the language itself, who contribute to its expansion and growth. The community is actually full of really nice people as well. By the way, Rust is also a systems language. You can do the same sort of things you would do in C or C++ in Rust. So video games are on the table on that. Writing an operating system, you can do quite a lot in Rust. Okay, now that I've got that off my chest, let's move on. This is, if you go to Visual Studio Code or just Google VS Code, it'll bring you to this page. It will give you a download link appropriate for your operating system. I'm recommending Visual Studio Code because it is easy to use, it's free, it's open source, you can use it in a production environment, so at work without getting in trouble for not paying for it because you don't have to pay for it. It's a pretty good platform that way. My only gripe is that it's done by Microsoft and you have to opt out of telemetry or data being collected while you use the software. I have already installed VS Code. Let me show you how you can set it up for Rust specifically. By the way, if you have not installed Rust at this point, you should pause the video and install Rust first. Okay, moving on. Here's VS Code. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to show you this. This is, the bottom one is for extensions. The two I have installed are Rust by Kalita Alexi. This is a fork of Rusty code, which is by this guy, which I'm not actually sure which is better or not, but anyway, once you install Rust by this guy, the one I have, it will go, a bunch of prompts will appear here at the top that will ask you to install things. One of them asks for RLS or Classic. I would recommend RLS because RLS stands for Rust Language Server. It is a service that's installed on your computer to supplement an IDE environment. So code completion, which you'll see probably in progress on this. You will also do things like check pre-compile check, so it'll run through your code and make sure it will compile even before you compile it. It will save time and other things like that. There's other features, but those are the main ones that people use an IDE or a good code editor for. So once you've installed that, I'm going to show you, I'm in full screen mode, but if you hit Alt in full screen mode, it will bring up the menu that you guys should see by default. If you want to opt out of telemetry collection, you go here to Settings. Yes. And over here on the right, here's how I would do it. If you type in telemetry here at the top, you can see all the telemetry will pop up on this side. You click on the little pencil and you say which one you want. I want it false. I don't want to opt into this. And that's what I do. There are other things. By the way, that Rust editor, it'll add these Rust settings for you as long as you go through all the prompts. It'll download additional things, but yeah, you want to do that. Okay. We are going to close that editor. The next thing I want to show you, you go to File, Open Folder. If you open a folder, it will, like mine, I don't think you can see my open folder here, but when you open the folder, you can, it'll open into that folder again next time. In this case, my folder is Demo Rust Intro. Anyway, so let's make a file. If you see this little new file button here, this is your folder or your project name. You hit here and you type in the project name or the folder name. In this case, we want to call it hello world _world.rs. RS is the source file extension. And it's how Rust knows it's a Rust file. Upon first opening this would probably be where you start. You might see all of those RLS prompts and things through here. And yeah, you definitely want to go through those and just say yes to everything. When it says default toolchain stable, default toolchain nightly, currently RLS is in the nightly builds. It'll move to stable when it's more stable, but it's good enough you can use it now. So when you have a code file, like such as this hello world.rs, your compiler needs to know where to enter it. You do this by giving it a method or a function, which that is just a chunk of code that does something. We will go into writing our own later, but for now in the basics, we're just going to write the default one. The default entry point for your program is a function main parentheses, and then you do the curly brackets. This is your method signature. This says, hey, this is a method. This is the name of the method, and this also indicates that it's a method, but it has more functionality, which we'll get into later. This block here, everything in between it is your code, the stuff that you are telling the computer to do. In this case, we will say print line. You notice how it's detecting it automatically. Cool stuff. Anyway, print line with the exclamation at the end, and we'll say hello. Well, let's just say hello world. Okay, semicolon at the end. In Rust and many languages, putting a semicolon at the end means this is the end of this section of code. This is how a computer will ignore all this white space, including indentations and stuff, for many languages, not all. And so in order to know since it's just getting rid of that anyway, it needs to know where the current command ends, which is historically by doing a semicolon. Okay, anyway, now that I've added that extra space and stuff, let's save it. Okay, if you go to View, Integrated Terminal, this is why I chose Visual Studio Code. It will bring up your command line. So for those of you who are not familiar, a command line is a screen of text. It's the way that it was before we even had all the windows and stuff. It is a screen of text that you type in a command and then it spits something out, or it doesn't. It just does that command. One common command that works in Windows, Mac, and Linux is cd, which stands for change directory, or change your folder. If you do change directory ... that means go up a folder. If you say cd demo rust intro, then it will go into demo rust intro. In Windows, to see what files and folders are in your current directory, in Windows it's dir for dir, or short directory. In Linux and in Mac, it's ls. See, we have our file. If you have already installed Rust, it should automatically add itself to what's called your path variable, which allows you to execute that program from anywhere. The program we're going to use to compile is called rust-c, or rust compile. And then we will type in the name of our whatever that darned thingy is, source code file, and then run it. Just like a compiler, most programs, the ones that are written natively like this, they do not return anything if it did what you said. If it didn't, it'll say there was a problem, such as, let's say, problem. It will tell you what went wrong and why it didn't work. Anyway, so now we have our program. Let's run it the way you do it in Linux and Mac, // which dot means the current directory. So you can cd into dot, which will just make you not move anywhere. And then // and then the name of the program. In Mac and Linux, it does not put an extension like .exe or anything in your executable. That's a Windows thing. But if it's there, you just run it. In Mac or in Windows, all you need to do is type in the name of the program, though. Or, you can include the .exe or not. Doesn't matter. Doesn't work in Linux. Okay. This has been the introduction that I wanted to do. This is Visual Studio Code. It's, like I said, it's free. Go ahead and do it. Until next time, the next time we'll get into doing variables and things like that. If you want, actually, let me show you real fast the course material that I'm going by. If we go back to our browser and go back to the Rust site, go to Documentation, the Rust Programming Language. This is a free online book that you can read to learn Rust. We'll go to, let me zoom in so you can see it. 2nd edition. Okay, what we've done today has been the installation and Hello World portion, but we've also given you an editor that you can open and, work with. I'm going to skip guessing game tutorial. I feel that's better suited for people who have already learned to program. If you're adventurous and you're a quick learner, go ahead and do it. This is the textbook I'm going off of. The next video will be about variables and mutability, which we'll define next time much more in depth. And yeah, that's all I had prepared for today. Let's see. If you have any questions about the Rust at all, if you have a question about something I may not have explained very well, I'm still human and I'm also not good at explaining things all the time, please ask in the comments below. I plan on monitoring this and I will answer. And other places you can get information, you can go to Stack Overflow, or if you want to be less intimidated, the Rust forums. I'm not exactly sure how to get there, but I think it's users.rustling.org or .com or something. Anyway, if you go to the Rustling website, you should be able to find it on there. Or just Google Rustling forums. So those are the resources I have for you. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again and help you out more. Thank you, and bye.